Good evening and welcome to the May 20th Appointments Committee. Could we all please stand and pledge the allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Argenzio?
Here.
Here. Councilor Janino?
Here.
Here. Councilor Kelly?
Here.
Here. Councilor Zambudo? Absent. And Chairwoman McKenna?
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. First matter on tonight's agenda is the appointment of Leah Hoffman to the Planning Board.
Could Leah Hoffman come up here, please? And just put on the mic. Just press the mic. Hi, Leah. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Leah Hoffman. I live at 92 Atwood Street in Revere.
And I see you're going to the, being appointed to the planning board. Could you just tell me a little bit of what you can bring to Revere?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Revere until I was about 13 years old. Both my mother and father are from Revere. My father is a small business owner. It was in Revere formerly for 30 plus years. And then once I purchased my first home, I purchased it in Revere in 2020. I've been in the construction world for the past 14 years. I'm passionate about real estate construction development. I'm passionate about the city that I live in and all the positive changes that are happening within the city, and I just wanted to be a part of it and make a difference.
Thank you. I read your resume. It was very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
So we're going to appoint you at 6 o'clock. We'll do the best job for the city. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All in favor? All opposed for a favorable recommendation? Aye. Thank you.
Next appointment is that of Stephen Morabito as Executive Director of the Human Rights Commission.
Stephen Morabito, would you come up here, please? Oh,
Madam Councilor.
Oh, Mayor Keefe.
I did want to come up and speak on behalf of the three appointments that you have in front of you. On top of it, Ms. Hoffman, who you just met, I wanted to mention really briefly that Ms. Hoffman, we put out for the boards and commissions for applications. She was one of the many people that we received, and we were extremely impressed, as you could see in her resume, speaks for itself. After doing some calls and checks, I actually tried to call her back and say, can I not appoint you and could I hire you? Unfortunately, the city's budget was unable to do that because she is well compensated in her private life, but you made a good decision with Leah. But I did want to talk about the three individuals that are coming in front of you next. Tonight, I am pleased to present these three individuals. I do want to respect your time, and I will speak on the group as a whole. We presented you with their resumes and their backgrounds. If you need any further information, they're here to speak. We have Steve Morabito, our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, who will be appointed to the Human Rights Commission tonight. We all know Steve's track record and his pride for his city, and we know that he will represent us well. We have Captain Isaac McDaniel being officially appointed as our Director of Veteran Services, our VSO, in replacement of a temporary VSO that we've had, acting VSO Julia Cervantes, and of course the former VSO and counselor Mark Silvestri. So Isaac will follow in a great line and great footsteps and continue the mission of the Veteran Service Department. Our other appointment is Christopher Charamella. Chris Charamella is hopefully, with your appointment, going to be our newest Superintendent of Public Works. Again, following in the footsteps of current counselor, Superintendent Paul Argenzio, and acting interim Superintendent Don Charamella. Chris's actions and work certainly speak for themselves, and I know that he'll come up here and to give you his best rendition of his career, but we know that we know what he's going to do. Each of these possess a unique skill and skill set, and certainly speak for themselves, but of course their capabilities, willingness, and passion to take on the individual roles. I'm excited, and I really wanted to highlight the pride I have asked in each of these employees to further serve our community because they all share our collective core values: compassion, respect, honesty, inclusion, and of course, accountability. I know that Each of these will not just represent my administration, they will represent this honorable city council with every ounce of integrity in their being. And I hope that you have their support tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ashley, first one. All in
Sorry,
favor?
no, I'm sorry.
Oh.
On the appointment of Stephen Morabito as Executive Director of the Human Rights Commission.
Stephen, can you come up here, please? Hello, Stephen, how are you?
Good evening. Steve Morabito, 281 Broadway.
Thank you, Stephen, for coming up here. Could you tell me what you're going to bring to Revere?
Absolutely. My personal and professional experience, as a LGBTQ gay man, and my professional experience as a city councilor has equipped me with the tools I need to lead the Human Rights Commission. And I'm here to answer any questions that you have for me.
I've worked with you for 8 years. I think you're wonderful. I think you're very qualified for the job, and I'm
Thank
glad you're here. And I just want to say, you have my recommendation, and just do the best job for the city.
Will do.
Thank you. Is there any other councilors? Councilor Argenzio?
Thank you. I've known Mr. Morabito for a lot of years now. I think this is an excellent appointment. He's a neighbor of mine now. I see him a lot, and he brings a lot to this position, and he brings a lot to the city, which he did as city councilor, and I'm very excited about Stephen being part of the Human Rights Commission. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Councilor Cogliandro?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Couldn't agree with this appointment more. I am thrilled that you're still a part of this city. I only had the opportunity to work with you for a couple of years, but you did a fantastic job then, and I know you're going to do one now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Zambudo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am thrilled to support my former colleague. I know he has a level head and will be judicious and being fair in this new position. And so I am truly grateful that he is willing to serve in this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Janino?
Thank you, Steve. I think this is putting a round peg in a round hole right here. I'm looking forward to it. Good luck.
Thank you. Councilor Kelly?
Thank you. Steve, you know, we go back a while. I think you're a great guy. I think very highly of you, and I think you're going to do great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. All in favor, all opposed, so ordered for a favorable recommendation.
Next appointment is for Isaac McDaniel as Director of Veteran Services.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming. Isaac, I read your resume, and it was very impressive. But could you just tell me a little bit about what you want to bring to the table for the Veteran Services?
Sure, and thank you. It's Isaac McDaniel, 249 Broadway Street. Last past 18 years of my life has been dedicated as a service member of United States Armed Forces. 13 of those have been enlisted, meaning coming up from a private until a sergeant. The last past 6 have been as a military officer. What I'm bringing to the table, or yet what I have already brought to the table, is this. I looked around to different offices, and I've seen that some of the common struggles that some veterans were facing, for example, some memorandums which a service member would have to pay an attorney to do, or a DD-214, which is a certificate of discharge upgrade. These are two items that aren't common, but yet are usually done at a paid level. The city of Revere has, for the last past 2 weeks, and say a total of 31 days, has been able to produce these. I'm calling around to our neighbor, sister and brother offices. This is something that the city of Revere is doing that no one else is doing. What I plan to bring to the table is exactly this, is complete understanding, a humbleness, style and smile. And with that to say is really being out there and representing our veterans, doing a good job for the city, but even more for the individuals who lay their life, who are here to speak, or here to speak, or those who have gave all. And so I'm here representing them.
Thank you very much. Any councilors? Councilor Cogliandro?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had the pleasure of meeting you, Captain, a few weeks ago. You seem like you're full of life, and I know that you're going to do a good job for the veterans of the city, and I look forward to seeing you at the food bank every month.
Thank you,
You
sir.
have my full support.
Thank you.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've only recently met you, and I was impressed by meeting you, but I'm even more impressed by your resume. And if you live up to half what your resume tells me, you're going to be terrific for the city, so welcome. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors? Councilor Agenzio.
Thank you. I met Mr. McDaniels just a few weeks ago, like Councilor Zambudo said, but I was immediately impressed with the way he presented himself, the way he spoke, and I think he'll be a great asset to the city and the city's veterans. I'm really looking forward to having you aboard.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. I just had the opportunity of meeting you, and I as well, very impressed with meeting you, very impressed with your resume, very happy to see that you'll be in this position, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilor Janino.
You know, the other one said, I met you a few weeks ago, very impressed with you, the energy level. I look forward to working with you. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Do the best job for the city.
I appreciate that, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All in favor, all opposed, so ordered for favorable recommendation.
Next up is the appointment of Chris Charmella as the DPW Superintendent.
Chris, will you come up here, please? Could you state your name and your address for the record, please?
Chris Charamella, 319 Charger Street.
Thank you. And Chris, I've been working with you for a while now, and I
Yes,
know
we
what
have.
you're capable of, and I will speak after my counselors about you, but could you tell me what you would like to bring to the table that's not been done yet?
So
Thank you.
I've worked for the city for the past 7 years. From starting as a laborer in the water department, I moved up the ranks slowly. I have learned a decent amount from our predecessors on both sides, water in general. I think this fiscal year, we did a great job. Well, I was the acting superintendent for the water side. I believe we did a good job managing the budget, and I'd like to jump over to the general side and accomplish the same things. Me and my fiance just bought a house on Malden Street, so I'm trying to better this community for everyone, including myself.
Thank you. Any counselors? Counselor Janino.
Welcome to Ward 6. And
Thank you.
since I've got the opportunity to work with you for the last couple of months, see you in action down on Sherman Street, down St. Mary's, and what have you, I'm very impressed by it.
Thank you,
Look
Chris.
forward to working with you. Thank you.
Counselor Agenzio.
Thank you. I've known Chris since he started down the DPW, and immediately he turned out to be an excellent employee. He really brings a lot to the job. I've always had positive experiences with him. I've known his father since the 7th grade, so it's a very good family, and I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm glad that he's following in my footsteps, and I couldn't think of a better appointment.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Cogliandro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The DPW is probably the department that the council speaks to the most. And because of you guys, you make us look good when things get done, potholes, signage, whatever it might be. And I want to thank you. I want to thank people like yourself, like Bill Guanasso, Chris Fabiano, these people at the DPW. We have quite a team, and I'm happy to see that you're going to be leading it.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. You have my full
And
support.
I'd also like to point out, I'd like to better the communication between the DPW and the residents in general, so that all the information doesn't have to flow through you guys.
Thank you.
They should be more reachable, I believe.
Thank you. Counselor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've watched you for several years. You're a professional at what you do. You come from great stock, and obviously your father's zeal for the job has rubbed off on you. I hope you're not going to push him out hardly when
Not just
you
yet.
take over. But we expect big things from you, and I know you'll deliver. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Permission to speak from the chair? Thank you. I just want to say that I've been working with you for the last 7 years, mostly for the last 2 years. Everything I've asked you, and you've seen what's going on down Beachmont. So you've really have given 100% of trying to help people down there and the problems. I just want to say, I mean, you had your boots on and your jeans or your work clothes, and some lady had her car in 3 feet of water, and you didn't think twice about going in there in the water and grabbing her car and taking it out of there. So kudos to you, really, kudos to you. And I'm supposed to ask you, will you take your work boots off when you come in the new house?
I'll try my best.
Okay.
See what we can do.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Thank you, Chris. Do a good job for the city. Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered for a favorable recommendation.
Next up is the reappointment of Paul Barrasso as Assistant Harbor Master.
Hi, Paul. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Paul Barrasso, 53 Ocean Street.
So, Paul, what have you been doing? This is your reappointment as the Assistant Harbor Master. What have you been brought to the, is it the yacht club?
Part of it's been the yacht club, but most of it's been the city.
Okay.
As our waterways get busier, I've been working with people, educating people on no wake zones, channel markers, stuff like that.
Okay.
As well as keeping the beach clean.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any counselors want to speak? No counselors? Okay, please do the best job for the city, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All in favor? All opposed? So ordered for a favorable recommendation.
Next up is the reappointment of John Camerata to the Election Commission.
Is John? Hi, John.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
John Camerata, 15 Seabreeze Lane.
And you also are a reappointment. Can you tell me what you'd like to do for the election department?
Well, this is my 13th year, I think, and we have a lot of changes going on. And under Paul's doing a great job, just we need help. We need some more workers, poll workers, work on redistricting, but it's a work in progress, and we're looking good.
Great. Any councilors? Councilor Zambudo?
Obviously, your track record speaks for itself. You've done a great job. We're happy you're staying on board, and you also come from good stock, and we all know that. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
So, John, please do the best job for the city. Thank you very much. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered for a favorable recommendation. That's it? This concludes tonight's meeting of the Appointments Committee. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Legislative Subcommittee to order. Please join me in a salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members, Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
Here.
Here, Councilor Jaramillo. Here, Councilor Kelly.
Here.
Here, Councilor Silvestri. Here, and Chairman Argenzio.
Here.
Here, quorum is present. There's one item on tonight's agenda, and that is an ordinance, excuse me, an ordinance providing for interpretation services for public meetings and public documents.
Councilor Jaramillo, would you like to go first, or I think Ms.
Sure.
Iannuzzo has a presentation for us, but please.
Sure. Mr. Chair, so nice to see you. Finally made it to the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee meeting. I thank you for your leniency. Mr. Chair, this ordinance is seeking to, I've been working with the administration for a while. They've been giving us quite a bit of guidance around language access for the city. We're trying to align or codify what the city's already doing. I think Claire's going to tell us a little bit more. I think we go a little bit further than the city, but I think that it's all with good intent and ensuring that we're the most equitable in our language access plan. But this is in alignment with what the city's doing. This is in full alignment with what the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department has recommended. And why not go above and beyond for our great residents to ensure accessibility for all? So I hope my colleagues will join me in voting in favor of this motion when the time comes.
Mr. Chair, thank you. For the record, I'm Claire Anzrillo, Solicitor's Office, 281 Broadway. Just given the time that has elapsed between when this was initially put forth by Councilor Jaramillo to now, when we're kind of seeing it through to subcommittee, I thought it appropriate to give the councilors in attendance an update on what has transpired on the city side, and then depending on how y'all feel about motions and amendments, we can move forward, making things align, because some time has passed, so there are some inconsistencies between the two that are not necessarily on the floor, the motion on the floor versus what the city's doing. So with the chair's permission, I'd like to do a really brief presentation. I know there's a long meeting tonight, so I'm going to go as fast as possible without, jumbling. Let me just connect. These are fisky. Is it good? Okay, I'm going to hold it at this weird angle. All right. So the language access plan, I'll refer to it as the LAP. I'm going to be really brief, give a comprehensive summary of what our internal guidelines are for interpretation and translation. So kind of the values that were shaping the crafting of this LAP, it was fourfold. So as Councilor Jaramillo said, we want to actively support our underserved communities. We want to advance equity. So while we may have a program that's open to everyone, we have to consider how feasible it is for certain folks to reach certain programs. We wanted to be sure that we're creating meaningful access to our services. And all of these efforts that we're undergoing will ultimately strengthen the city's internal capacity to function at the highest standard possible. And as I'm sure most people in this room are aware of after much door knocking and campaigning, we're a very diverse community. You've probably been met with various languages at those doors. More than half of our residents speak a language other than English at home, and almost half of our residents are foreign-born. And these statistics that come out of Revere, as well as our sister communities, are the driving force behind certain policies that the state and federal government pass down to us, such as a language access plan. As Councilor Jaramillo said, they are mandated by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the LAP is adopted in accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so all HUD recipients are required as of recent, to have one on file. And while numerous city departments and offices receive federal funding through HUD and other federal agencies, one of the most wide-reaching, as you may know, is the Department of Planning and Community Development and our public safety services, such as the fire department and the police department. And so the end goal in adopting the LAP, in addition to our funding requirements, is to increase the overall resident satisfaction with our city services. Basically, an LAP, in theory, will remove barriers to access certain programs. You can think of a senior abatement form, a notice for a public meeting such as this one, and other external public-facing services. And as of 2015, which is a bit dated, more than 12,000 Revere residents self-reported as limited English proficient individuals. And I'm sure that number is a lot higher, almost 10 years into the future. And so without getting into the nitty-gritty, because it's a 20-page document, which I'll provide everyone with, the LAP outlines what the guidelines are for city employees to access and use interpretation and translation services and tools. And so this methodology is guided by HUD's four-factor analysis, which is a HUD assessment of what thresholds a city must meet for translation and interpretation services without imposing an undue financial burden to the city. And this calculated prioritization, which we base off of census data, is similar to the ideas included in Councilor Jaramillo's ordinance, as he mentioned before. We've streamlined it in accordance with federal requirements, and as we implement the LAP across our city departments, the city, once everything is done, we will be operating under the following mandated minimum thresholds. So for interpretation, which is spoken, under HUD, there is no benchmark requirement for interpretation services as of yet. It is on a by-request basis where the city makes a good faith effort to accommodate that request. So timelines and request procedures are all laid out in the LAP. And for example, if we wanted to do a public notice for a meeting, which the clerk's office puts out, we would have 3 to 4 bylines in that public notice in the other language, which would say, if interpretation is needed for this meeting, please contact X. And for translation, which is written down, HUD does have a benchmark for what the city has to translate, whether or not someone makes that request. And this benchmark is set at 5% of the population or 1,000 people for limited English proficient speakers, whichever benchmark is hit first. And in the case of Revere with those thresholds, the language groups that hit a sufficient number of limited English proficient individuals are Spanish and Arabic. And so the city has to translate vital documents, which are defined in the LAP. Think of most front-facing, applications, parking, clerk's office, all that sorts of stuff. We have to translate those into those 2 languages. However, upon request, through 311, through the city clerk's office, through any city employee, we would make the effort to translate into that requested language. And we're looking forward to new census data as it's coming out to make sure that we're staying up to date with where our residents are reporting. And a little bit of a tout for the city and our team that we're working with. We submitted our final draft of the LAP to HUD not too long ago. And we received really great feedback from them. Not only do our guidelines fulfill all the requirements to continue to receive federal and state funding for certain allocations, but they demonstrate a commitment by the city to our residents who may not speak English very well. And the city's HUD representative, the attorney that we work with, actually plans to use Revere's LAP as a template for other cities in the region to go off of. And because this was a lot of talking, I wanted to just give a real-world example for how we've already been able to put it in use. There was a grant request by the Revere Fire Department earlier in the year, and it came back partially rejected by the Department of Homeland Security because we did not have a policy on file prohibiting discrimination on the basis of national origin, which is language spoken. And upon finalizing and getting adoption from administration and all our departments, the Revere Fire Department was able to submit the new LAP in their updated grant application as proof of our commitment of non-discrimination on the basis of national origin. And I just thought this was a good example for us to visualize the kinds of implications that can occur when we are not staying up to date on policies like this. And to wrap up very quickly, I wanted to give a more logistical outline on how the implementation of this policy is going. After announcing the new guidelines to staff and meeting with our department heads, we're in what I would call the demonstrated commitment phase of this rollout. The Office of DEI in the Mayor's office is compiling the monumental boatload of documents from each department that would be deemed vital for translation. And they are working to categorize them for translation into Spanish and Arabic. And as you can imagine, this initial intake in translation is going to take some months. However, once that is complete, we will begin to appropriately advertise this new policy and these new services that are going to be available. And we'll be able to put our notices out about which city documents are already translated, which ones you can request. And so we ask, on behalf of our city staff team that's been working on this, we ask for the public watching and for the council in attendance, we ask for your patience as we toil away at getting this initial intake of all of the forms that we've decided we have to provide. And that with some time, we know that Revere is going to lead the region in the quality and availability of our language services. Because if you look around, not a lot of cities are at the forefront of this yet. Malden has a really great program, really similar to what we're doing. We look to them for a lot of help. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have. We're still in the very early stages of getting this rolled out, but 100% completion is going to look, if we have an older Italian resident who wants to call in for translation of that senior abatement form, they'd be able to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Inzerillo. Any councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Silvestri. Did you want to speak first? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Claire, thank you for that presentation. So from what I'm understanding is we're doing a great job already. And to put this in an ordinance right now would be a little premature. If what we're doing is going to save us money, it seems like. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so I'm definitely the wrong person for financial forecasts, but seeing as though we're requiring or going to be adhering to everything that HUD puts down on municipalities to adhere to, I think this is a great compromise between cost and what the city is able to offer.
Yeah, and I gotta say is a great example of our, some of our services. When I was a veteran service officer, I had a widow who only spoke Vietnamese. And although we had no one in the building, there was the 311 resource that we were able to call the line, and they were able to get us with someone that could speak her language, and we were able to work a whole VA claim through that process. So the resources are there. You just got to get creative. I think the city's already on that path, so thank you.
Councilor Guarino-Swire.
I love this motion, and thank you, Claire, for mentioning the Italian language, because I was going to ask that. Thank you.
Any other councilors wishing to speak?
Claire, so I guess what recommendations would you make to the, so I still believe it's important to codify this because administrations come and go. HUD may change their regulation in the future, and I think that it's so important that we have something in statute. Are there any particular recommendations you'd make to the ordinance to align it with what sounds like is our very good policy, but to ensure that we're not at the behest of a federal, state, or even a local administration that would want to dismantle language access and equity in language access for city services?
Yeah, definitely a fair question. I'm not going to lie. I have not looked at the specific language since I met with you last, but my general recommendation would be if you all voted favorably to amend it however you see fit, to perhaps amend the motion to read that the city policy writer and analyst use the most recent updated version on that you have submitted to match it to what the LAP says. Because I don't have the specific numbers from your original ordinance off the top of my head. My recommendation would be for it to match what we've adopted internally, but
I think our ordinance did move it to 5% for those languages.
Okay.
And so I think we might be in alignment, I think, from our last conversation. But why don't we, okay. I think,
I know it got hectic because the
Yeah.
lead on this project got another
Left.
job somewhere
Yeah.
else. So we're kind of scrambling a little bit, but
that's okay. Would the chair be amenable to moving this to a later meeting so that the administration and I can continue to work on aligning these policies and,
I can come back to the next meeting with a
And
drafted version of
we can touch base
yours.
from now until then. Is that okay with my colleagues? That'd be great. Thank you. So,
Motion to table? Yeah, okay, this is just going to remain in committee.
Thank you,
And we can pull
Councilor
it out at any
Armijo.
time.
thank you, Claire, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leeway.
Councilor Haas.
Good evening. Robert Haas, 161 Fenley Street, and I know this is something Juan and I had spoken about, and Claire and the former employee that was with the department, but I was just curious, in my former position as Assistant Director at the Senior Center, we translated our newsletters into Arabic, Spanish, and Portuguese, and I know at City Hall there's one language specialist, so I was just curious how the city plans on dealing with the workload that comes with this, if it's, maybe they could reach out to high school students and offer credits, or I'm not sure if it's something that will be outsourced or something that will be done electronically, but I don't know if Claire can help answer some of those questions. Thank you.
So yeah, very quickly, those are all questions that came up as we were developing the LAP, and it's pretty much a mixture / combination of everything Councilor Haas just mentioned. They're looking in the far future, next fiscal year, looking at outsourcing. Right now, they're working with the Youth Works Department to see if we can get, honors students, stuff like that from the high school, as well as electronic forms of translation and interpretation.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to leave this into committee and take it out at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. No further business. Meeting is adjourned.